sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, listener name. You know how sometimes you see those crazy wildfire scenes in movies? It's like January in Southern California. Yeah. And the sky is totally choked with smoke.
Yeah.
And these insane hurricane force winds are just like whipping flames across the hills. It feels like something out of a disaster movie, right?
Right.
But that's what's happening in Los Angeles right now. It's crazy. Multiple wildfires just burning out of control. Tens of thousands of people have had to run from their homes.
It's a really scary reminder of how powerful nature can be. And it's happening more and more often all over the world, these extreme weather events.
Yeah, you're right. And we've got this whole stack of articles here from CBS News just detailing this whole disaster that's unfolding. So in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down, okay? We're going to look at the fires themselves, what they're doing to people's lives, the just incredible effort to try to stop these things. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Santa Ana winds, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we should probably zoom out a little, too, and talk about climate change, because it's a big part of this story, and it's something that affects all of us, not just California.
Yeah, definitely a global issue. But for now, let's zero in on what's going on in LA. So the first thing is, this isn't just one fire, right? We're talking about multiple fires burning at the same time.
Yeah, multiple fire.
Imagine, listener name, like looking at a map.
Right.
These aren't just little dots on a map. We're talking massive, like monsters. They're just sprawled out, some of them bigger than entire cities, just eating up everything in their path. It's kind of terrifying, honestly.
Totally. The Palisades fire, that's one of the big ones, right? It's over 15,800 acres already, and it's just not slowing down.
Wow.
And then there's the Eaton fire, which is really bad. That one's already burned over 10,600 acres.
Jeez.
And, you know, tragically, it's also been the deadliest so far. And then you've got the Hurst fire, the Woodley fire, the Lydia fire. And then there's a new one that just started up, too.
Oh.
Called the Sunset fire.
It's almost like every time they put one out, another one pops up, you know?
It's crazy.
And this isn't just about stuff getting burned up, right? We're talking about people's lives here.
Yeah, absolutely. The Eaton fire alone, like I said, it's already taken 5 lives.
Oh, man.
And we're hearing reports of injuries from all the fires. Some pretty serious, too. And that includes firefighters. They're out there trying to stop these things. And it's so dangerous.
It's just heartbreaking to think about what people are going through. I was reading one of the CBS articles about this guy, David Hansen. He had to run from the Palisades fire, had to rescue his mom, who's elderly. They barely got out in time.
Oh, wow. And they don't even know if their house is still standing.
Right. It's crazy to think, like, if you had just minutes to leave your house, listener name, what would you grab? What's the most important thing?
I don't know. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah. Tens of thousands of people have had to evacuate, and they don't even know if they'll have a home to go back to. And then to make things even worse, you got people looting, trying to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, it's so sad. But that's something that often happens when there's a disaster like this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, the articles mentioned 2 people who have already been arrested for looting.
Wow. It's just crazy how some people react, you know? Like here you've got these firefighters putting their lives on the line to try and control these blazes. And then you have other people just trying to steal stuff.
Totally different mindsets, I guess. I read that the LAFD, they've actually called in all their off-duty firefighters. Like everybody has to work, which they haven't done in almost 20 years.
19 years, yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow. So they're pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, they're pulling out all the stops.
So you got over 1,400 firefighters on the ground right now, hundreds of fire trucks and equipment. They're even getting help from other states and FEMA. It's like a full-blown war against these fires. And I can't imagine how hard it is to fight them with these crazy Santa Ana winds just whipping everything around.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Those winds make it really, really tough to get the fires under control.
Yeah.
Like, they're so strong that they can ground the aircraft.
Yeah.
The planes can't even fly to drop water or fire retardant.
Oh.
And some of the crews on the ground, they're even running out of water. It's a tough, tough battle.
I read in one article that some people actually had to abandon their cars and run away on foot because the fire was spreading so fast. They got stuck in traffic trying to get out.
It's just chaos.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing what these firefighters are up against. I mean, talk about bravery.
Yeah, no kidding. But, you know, aside from the firefighters, I wonder how regular people in LA are coping with all this. Like, What's daily life like for them right now?
Oh, it's rough. It's like the whole city's under siege. Almost 400,000 people are without power right now.
Wow.
And a lot of the main roads are shut down.
Yeah.
Schools are closed. Businesses are closed. Even the Oscars nominations got pushed back because of the fires. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And a bunch of TV shows had to stop filming, too. It's wild.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of TV, I was reading that Palisades Charter High School, you know, that school they use in a ton of movies,
Right.
like Freaky Friday and Carrie and all those.
Right.
It's been pretty badly damaged in the fires.
Oh, no.
And apparently this famous Malibu seafood restaurant, the Real Inn, that one that all the celebrities used to go to, that's been completely destroyed too. It's crazy to think about these landmarks, you know, just gone.
Yeah, it really hits home, doesn't it? When you see places, get wiped out like that.
Yeah.
These fires are really leaving their mark.
Yeah.
Both physically, like on the land itself, but also emotionally, on the people who live there.
Absolutely. But to really understand why these fires are so intense, why they're spreading so quickly, I think we need to talk about those Santa Ana winds.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm struggling to understand. Like, last year we have record rainfall here, right?
Yeah.
Tons of rain. And now, suddenly, it's like everything's on fire. How does that even happen?
It's a really interesting connection. The Santa Ana winds, they're really unique to this region. They're a big part of why these fires are so bad. Basically, they're these dry winds, right?
Yeah.
And they blow downhill from the Great Basin. That's east of California.
Oh, okay. So they're coming from the desert, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And because the Great Basin is higher up than Los Angeles, the air has to descend from the mountains. And when it does that, it gets compressed and it heats up. It's a process called adiabatic warming.
Interesting.
And that process, it makes the humidity plummet. So all of a sudden you have these incredibly dry conditions.
Yeah.
And that's perfect for wildfires, unfortunately.
So the wind is literally heating up as it comes down the mountain. It's making things drier and more flammable, like a natural blowtorch almost.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And this time we're dealing with some of the strongest Santa Anas we've seen in over a decade. They're calling it the worst windstorm since 2011.
Wow. So we've got these super strong dry winds ripping through Southern California, pushing these fires further and faster than ever.
Exactly.
But I know you mentioned wanting to talk about the bigger picture, the connection to climate change. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what we're seeing in Los Angeles right now is a perfect example, unfortunately, of how climate change is causing extreme weather events to happen more often. And they're getting more intense, too.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how strange it is to have these huge fires right after we had all that rain last year.
Right.
How does that fit in with climate change?
It's a great example of what we're seeing with climate change. It's not just that the planet is gradually getting warmer. It's that the weather is becoming more unpredictable. Like, we're swinging from one extreme to another. Last year, tons of rain. This year, these crazy fires. And, the thing is, all that rain last year might have actually contributed to this problem.
Wait, so all that rain we had last year actually made these fires worse?
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive.
It is.
But all that rain, it led to a ton of new growth, right?
Yeah.
All this vegetation. But now that stuff is dried out, and it's basically just fuel for these fires.
Oh, wow. So it's like a delayed reaction. The rain set the stage for the fires months later. That's a scary thought, to think that something good, like all that rain, could actually lead to something so bad.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. And it's probably going to happen more and more as the planet warms up.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, these fires in LA are a pretty clear sign that climate change isn't some far-off problem. It's happening right now. It's affecting real people's lives in a really serious way.
And it's not just California, right? We're seeing these crazy weather events all over the place. Wildfires, hurricanes, floods, droughts. It's like the whole planet is going haywire.
It is, kind of. And the science is pretty clear on this. Human activity is the main reason the climate is changing. All the fossil fuels we burn, the forests we cut down, the way we farm, it's all pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
And those greenhouse gases are like a blanket around the Earth, right?
Exactly. They trap heat, and that causes the planet to warm up.
Okay, so we know climate change is real, it's happening now, and it's mostly our fault. But what do we do about it? Where do we go from here?
That's the big question, isn't it? But the good news is we do have solutions. We just got to start using them. Like, we need to move away from fossil fuels, switch to renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and geothermal.
I've heard about those. Are they, like, practical, though? Can they really power everything?
Yeah, they're getting better and better all the time, and they're already powering a lot of things. We also need to protect our forests because trees are amazing. They absorb CO2 from the air. They're like natural air filters. And we got to rethink how we do agriculture. We need more sustainable farming practices that don't release so many greenhouse gases.
So it sounds like we need to change, like, everything. Energy, transportation, food.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big task, but we can do it.
Do you really think so?
I do. We have the knowledge, we have the technology, we have the resources. We just need the will to do it. And the sooner we act, the better, because the longer we wait, the worse things are going to get.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But it's still kind of overwhelming, you know? Like, what can one person really do?
Don't underestimate yourself. Even small changes can make a difference. Like, try driving less, take public transportation more often, walk or bike when you can. Those things help.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that. I've also been trying to use less energy at home. Like, I switched to LED light bulbs. I try not to waste electricity. I even hang my clothes up to dry instead of using the dryer.
Those are all great things. Every little bit helps. And if you're able to, you could look into getting solar panels for your house. That can really make a big difference in your carbon footprint.
Yeah. I'll have to look into that. But you're right. We need bigger changes than just what individuals can do. We need the government to step up too, right?
Definitely. We need policies that encourage renewable energy, regulations that limit carbon emissions, investments in things like public transportation and green infrastructure. That's how we're really going to make a dent in this problem.
So we need to be activists in a way, like make changes in our own lives, but also push for bigger changes at the government level.
Exactly. We all have a role to play. And the good news is more and more people are starting to care about this, especially young people. They're demanding a future that's safe and sustainable. And scientists are speaking out, telling us we need to listen to the evidence. And communities are coming together, trying to find solutions, trying to prepare for the changes that are coming. It's actually pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it's good to hear that people are taking action because honestly, sometimes it feels like all doom and gloom, you know?
Yeah, I get it. But there's still hope. We have the power to change things. We just got to use it. These fires in LA, they're a tragedy, but they can also be a wake-up call. Like a reminder that we're all connected, our actions have consequences, and we got to take care of this planet. It's the only one we've got.
Absolutely. So listener name, we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the fires, the firefighters, those crazy Santa Ana winds, and of course, climate change. But now let's bring it back to you. What can you do to make a difference? How can you help the people affected by these fires? And how can you help fight climate change?
Yeah, it can feel kind of overwhelming, right? Like, how can one person, actually do anything about a problem this big?
I get it. But even small things can make a difference. Like, think about those folks in LA who have lost everything in the fires. Organizations like the Red Cross, they're doing amazing work providing shelter and food and all sorts of essential stuff for people who've been displaced. Yeah, I bet even a small donation could really help someone right now who's going through all that.
Absolutely. Even a few bucks can make a big difference.
I was also thinking there are probably smaller local organizations in the LA area that could use some help too, right?
Yeah, definitely. You can always do a little digging online and find groups that are on the ground, actually doing the relief work directly.
Right. So donating to those organizations is a good way to help right now. But what about like the long term? What can people do to address the root cause of these fires, to fight climate change?
Well, like I was saying earlier, every journey starts with a single step.
Right.
And I think one of the most important things you can do is reduce your carbon footprint.
Okay, how do you do that?
Well, think about ways you can drive less. Maybe you can carpool with a friend or coworker, or take public transportation, or even walk or bike sometimes if it's not too far.
I've been trying to be more mindful of my energy use at home too, like switching to those LED light bulbs, making sure I'm not wasting electricity. I even try to air dry my clothes instead of using the dryer whenever I can.
Those are all great things to do, and they really do add up. And hey, if you're into position to make a bigger change, you could look into getting solar panels for your house. That way you're not relying on fossil fuels for your electricity.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But I guess even if everyone did all those things, it wouldn't be enough, right? We still need bigger changes, like at the government level.
Totally. We need policies that support renewable energy, regulations that limit carbon emissions, and investments in things like public transportation and green technology. And that's where you come in. As a citizen, you have a voice. Make sure you're registered to vote and support candidates who get it, who understand the urgency of the climate crisis and are willing to take action.
And I guess we can also contact our elected officials directly too, right? Let them know this is something we care about.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of your voice. You can make a difference. And hey, there are a lot of organizations out there that are fighting for climate action. You can support them too. Donate your time or money. Because when we work together, we can actually achieve some real change.
So, listener name, that's our deep dive on these wildfires in LA.
Yeah.
It's a really tough situation, but it's not hopeless. We've got firefighters working tirelessly to contain these blazes. We've got everyday people stepping up to help those in need. And most importantly, we've got knowledge. We understand the science behind climate change, and we know what needs to be done to address it. So let's take what we've learned here and turn it into action. Whether it's making changes in your own life, supporting those affected by the fires, or advocating for a more sustainable future, we can all be part of the solution. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay engaged.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll. Show them all what I'm made up.